You know that moment when your PC feels off? Not broken, not crashing, just slightly wrong. You launch a game or open an app and something doesn't feel smooth. The frames are high, the specs are good, nothing is maxed out, and yet there's this weird inconsistency you can't explain. And you sit there thinking, maybe my PC just isn't powerful enough. So you tweak settings, lower things, maybe even think about upgrading. And the frustrating part is, none of it really fixes the feeling. Here's the thing. There's a very good chance your problem isn't your hardware at all. It's a setting. One hidden setting that most people ignore or set completely wrong, and it quietly ruins performance without ever looking like a problem. Let me be direct. Most people don't have weak PCs. They have misconfigured systems. And this setting, it creates instability in a way numbers don't clearly show, which is exactly why it's dangerous. We've been trained to chase performance through numbers, higher FPS, higher usage, higher clock speeds. That's what benchmarks and marketing push. But real performance, the kind you actually feel, isn't about how high numbers go. It's about how stable they are. And that's where this setting comes in. It doesn't just slow things down, it creates fluctuation. It makes your system behave inconsistently, and your brain notices that instantly. Even tiny timing changes, just a few milliseconds, can make something feel stuttery or off. Think of it like driving. A steady speed feels smooth. Constant acceleration and braking feels terrible, even if your average speed is high. That's exactly what this setting does. It forces your system to constantly adjust. Power levels shift, clocks spike and drop, workloads fluctuate, and instead of smooth performance, you get micro stutters, input delay, and that vague something's wrong feeling. Now here's what most people don't realize. In many cases, this setting is enabled by default, or worse, people enable it themselves thinking it improves performance. It's usually tied to maximum performance modes, aggressive settings, or uncapped behavior, things that sound good, things that feel like you're unlocking power. But what you're actually doing is removing stability, and stability is what makes a system feel fast. Real-world testing shows that slightly lower but consistent performance feels smoother than maximum output with fluctuations. Frame time consistency, not just FPS, is what matters. But most people only look at averages, and averages lie because they hide spikes. You can have 120 FPS and still feel stutter if frame times are inconsistent, and that's exactly what this setting introduces. A common example is uncapped performance. People remove limits thinking more is better, but now the system runs at its limit constantly. No headroom, no buffer. So the moment anything changes, a background task, a tiny spike, you feel it immediately. Same with aggressive power modes. Maximum performance sounds right, but often makes behavior less predictable. Balanced settings exist for a reason. They smooth things out. And then there are in-game settings pushing your system to the edge. High isn't always bad. Low isn't always better. What matters is stability within your system's limits. That's why two identical PCs can feel completely different. Same hardware, but one feels smooth, the other frustrating. The difference isn't the parts, it's how they're used. And once you see that, everything changes. You stop asking, how do I get more performance? And start asking, how do I make it stable? That's the shift most people never make. So what should you do? First, stop chasing maximum output. Running at the limit is usually the problem. Give your system headroom. Cap performance slightly below max. That alone reduces spikes. Second, rethink aggressive settings. Maximum performance isn't always better. Balanced settings often feel smoother. Third, focus on consistency. Look at frame times, not just FPS. Pay attention to responsiveness, not just speed. Fourth, simplify your system. Fewer background apps, fewer overlays, fewer interruptions. And finally, trust how your system feels, because that's what matters. Not numbers, not benchmarks, not percentages. If something feels off, there's a reason, and it's usually not lack of power, it's inconsistency. And that inconsistency often comes from a setting, a hidden one, a killer setting, the kind that doesn't break your system, but quietly degrades it, making you think you need an upgrade when you don't. That's why people upgrade and still feel underwhelmed. They bring the same settings, the same habits, the same instability onto better hardware. More power, same problem. But fix this, prioritize stability, and you'll notice it immediately. Your system feels smoother, more responsive, more controlled, not because it got stronger, but because you stopped forcing it into chaos. So next time your PC feels off, don't rush to upgrade. Look at your settings. Find what's pushing your system too hard. Dial it back, and you might realize the performance you were chasing was already there.